Hello everyone, welcome to another Destiny 2 video, and we just got some big news about Ark 3.0 coming in just under a week. If we head over to Bungie.net, you can see this brand new article just put up about an hour ago about Bring the Thunder inside Ark 3.0. I'm going to go through this, but I will put a link down below. I'm going to try to keep this the TLDR version and not read word for word, but get out the highlights. But it starts with, like the inevitable lightning that follows storm clouds, Ark 3.0's time has finally arrived. In 2022, the original trio of elemental subclasses that powered Guardians in Destiny 2 have been undergoing a major overhaul. Void was the first subclass to get the 3.0 treatment in the launch of the Witch Queen expansion. Season of the Haunted welcomed Solar 3.0, and soon it will be time for Ark wielders to receive their upgrades. The Destiny 2 development team has been hard at work on this subclass revamp, making sure that the new version of the Ark subclass brings the thunder. It goes on. We some filler here, nothing crazy. Like I said, links down below if you want to read the whole thing. It says Ark really just go fast and hit stuff. That sounds like a PvP nightmare, said Destiny designer Sam Doon when asked about the core fantasy that powered the Ark 3.0 revamp. We call it the Hold W subclass. Everything is built around moving forward and enabling aggression and those abilities. Powering that high-speed impact goal, one of the prime inspirations for Ark 3.0 was the 2009 action movie Crank 2 High Voltage. That's pretty good. I like that. It stars Jason Statham. He's a hitman, and essentially has a battery attached to his heart, and he has to keep moving quickly in order to stay alive. So it's a pretty crazy movie, but entertaining nonetheless. But he says, oh, and you get this buff. Much like Jason Statham's heart, you need to keep it ticking by staying in the fight. And that's what Ark 3.0 is going to be all about. You can see those Guardians who have spent some time with the revamped versions of Void or Solar, or with Stasis for that matter, know the basics of where to begin with Ark 3.0. As with those other subclass options, Ark 3.0 will give players more flexibility over customizing their Guardian's powers to suit their playstyle through the introduction of aspects and fragments. Guys, this is just like Solar, Void, and Stasis. Same deal, okay? Lighting up new abilities. Before we dive into the class-specific Ark abilities, let's talk about the buffs and debuffs that are key to Ark 3.0. First up is the new buff, Amplified, which is key to Ark 3.0 experience. An Amplified Guardian is faster both in terms of movement speed and in the terms of their weapon handling, and more agile, able to perform long slides that can function as devastating setup for some of the attacks that follow. Unlike other damage type buffs, Void's invisibility or Solar's radiant, players don't need to equip any specific aspects or fragments to become amplified. By default, all Ark classes become amplified after rapidly defeating targets with any Ark damage, and equipped aspects and fragments offer additional ways to become or benefit from being amplified. Okay, so it's just like an intrinsic buff, I guess. You always have it if you're running Ark. That's pretty cool. After sprinting for a few seconds, an Amplified Guardian will gain another boost in speed. Okay, so probably like when you're running as a Titan, you get those like kind of like move fast animations on your screen. Okay, gain a sizable PvE damage resistance buff. Oh boy, enabling an even longer slide ability. So just a PvE damage resistance buff here, not PvP. That's good. Imagine full-on Metroid speed booster mode, only Samus is now wielding a Gjallarhorn. Okay. Even if a player is no longer amplified, as long as they keep sprinting, the speed booster buff will stay active. Okay, so it's all about, like, go fast, move fast, right? In development, speed booster probably took the longest for me to get on board with, in that you were already moving faster to begin with, said Humble, when asked about the process of developing and refining the verbs for Ark 3.0. Adding PvP damage resistance to speed boosters to cement it as a strong gap-closing tool, and seeing it being used to move from one cover to the next is playtesting really brought it all together for me. You start sprinting, and then you hear this audio swell start to come up, and then you're like a jet engine rocketing around the arena. It's pretty awesome. That sounds pretty cool. All right. On the debuff side, Ark 3.0 is bringing two to the party: Blind and Jolt. I don't like the sound of blinding. Blinded opponents in PvE won't be able to see naturally and will also be disoriented and unable to fire their weapons. In PvP, blinded opponents will have their screen white out and their HUD removed for a short period of time alongside a ringing audio effect simulating the ringing in the ears after a flashbang explodes. Jolted opponents who are damaged will periodically send slivers of chain lightning out to nearby enemies, damaging them in the process. Okay. I don't like the sound of the blinded opponents in PvP. That sounds interesting, but okay, let's keep going. Ark 3.0 also uses Ionic Traces, which were previously available only to the military warlocks. Now available to all, traces are objects that, when collected, will add energy to all of your abilities. So it's essentially like a regen effect, okay? So Ionic Traces are going to regen our abilities, all right? Now that you are familiar with the basics, let's jump into the classes. Hunter. Hunter dashing forward, crackling with the power of arc lightning is a sight that is sure to strike fear in the heart of any enemy. As with previous subclass revamps, the team have definite images in mind when considering what the new arc should feel like in combat. For Hunter, the team imagined the graceful warrior monk, giving the Hunter the ability to get in close quarters quickly and effectively make a mess of their opponents in the process. Okay. All right, yeah, he goes on to essentially say the same thing. To the end, the Hunter Staff Super is returning. So Arc Staff's coming back, or staying, I should say. Interesting. With Arc Staff, Hunters will be able to block and deflect projectiles with a press of a button, as well as perform an armored dodge, where upon dodging, the Hunter is more resistant to incoming damage. Does it mean like Bleak Watcher is going to get the helmet? The Hunter helmet's going to get a rework? Like, if I don't need... It's going to be able to block and deflect projectiles with a press of a button, then why do I need the helmet? Interesting. It's considering it's a new exotic. I don't see why. Okay, let's move on. But one super just didn't seem like enough to the team. Thus, the introduction of a brand new arc-themed super, the Gathering Storm. Okay, new super. I like it. Here, the Hunter leaps into the air, hurling their staff into the ground. Okay, so it's like on point, okay? Or into an unlucky enemy like a spear. Upon impact, the staff emits a damaging burst that jolts nearby enemies. Soon after, a giant bolt of lightning strikes the staff and overcharges it, creating a large damage zone around it for several seconds. While overcharged, the staff sends out arcs of lightning to damage any enemies that move near it. That sounds pretty cool. Hopefully it's got some real damage. So like on boss phases, we can use this to our benefit. That'd be huge. That'd be great. That'd be really nice to see. On the melee side, the team kept the Hunter's combination blow ability, feeling like it was right in line with the graceful warrior fantasy that they were going for. Kills with the combination blow will refund dodge energy. Okay, that's good. Increase melee damage and restore a small amount of health. Okay, allowing skilled hunters to chain their dodges and melee attacks into balletic bursts of beautiful fury. Oh, like a ballet. Okay, yeah. In addition, the disorienting blow melee returns, blinding opponents with a devastating palm attack, while also amplifying the hunters along the way. Okay, interesting. I'm not sure if I'm on the fence about that. I'll have to see in real gameplay here. Okay. Hunters will be able to choose from 3 arc aspects to customize their tactical style. So here's our 3 new aspects, right? Flow state. Defeating a jolted opponent causes you to become amplified. Okay, but aren't we always amplified? When amplified, the Hunter's dodge will recharge faster and make you more resistant to damage, and you have quicker reload times. Okay, so defeating a jolted opponent causes you to become amplified. When amplified... But he says we're always amplified up here. Right? Always amplified. Defeat all Arcosses become amplified after rapidly defeating targets. Okay. So if we can only defeat one target, then we can become amplified. And while we're amplified, the dodge recharges faster, and you are more resistant to damage and have quicker reload times. All right, fine. Tempest Strike allows the hunter to perform a sliding melee that charges an arc wave along the ground, dealing significant damage and jolting enemies in the path. We have this already. Lethal Current. After dodging, the hunter's melee lunge range is increased, and their next melee attack jolts the target and creates a damaging lightning aftershock. When used with Arc Staff Super, after dodging, the hunter's next staff light attack hits twice. In addition, hitting a jolted enemy with a melee attack will blind them. Okay, I see blind becoming interesting. But a lot of ad clearance, it seems like here. A lot of ad clearance. I like the sound of that new super, but this just seems like a lot of ad clearance buffs. But we'll see. Finally, and a particular note, Ark 3.0 will also bring back blink movement. Oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. Mode for Ark Hunters. In fact, the blink ability will also include a baseline buff for any class that has access to it. Okay, this is great. Great. Blink should, just like with the Mask of Bacchus, that's going to be great. Okay. Blink, he goes on to talk about Blink. It's okay. Warlock, player fantasies don't come in more vivid than what the team had in mind for Ark 3.0 Warlocks. Two separate images were on the top of the mind. The Lightning Shaman and the Emperor Palpatine in full Lightning Fingers mode while turning Luke into burnt toast. I like that. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. I like the reference. Nice job, Bungie. Two supers will be available for the Warlocks. Chaos Reach, of course, where players will be able to shoot concentrated beams of arc energy out of their hand to decimate opponents, and Storm Trance. Okay, so we're not getting a new one here. The same two we've had before, which is more akin to the image of Palpatine floating around, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, we've had this. The super combines Palpatine firing electricity. This super combines both the landfall behavior from previous bottom tier arc, creating a damaging shockwave underneath the player, and the iconic blink behavior from the old top tree arc, allowing the Warlock to teleport briefly during the super. All right, so they're combining those two together. That's perfect. That's probably what it should have always been anyways. So that's good to see. And it would be, I just spent hours farming a Storm Dancer's Brace, so hopefully that will coincide very nicely with this. Warlocks will have two melees available, both utilizing the power of lightning. The ball lightning melee will send out a floating ball of arc energy that detonates, zapping enemies from above. So it's kind of like the void melee that they have right now. Okay. Chain lightning will send out arcs of lightning to strike and jolt the primary target and chain damage to surrounding enemies in the process. So we have something like this already. It sounds like it just might be getting a little bit of a buff, so to speak, but with chain damage to surrounding enemies. So that's nice. The Warlock's whole thing is being amplified, modifies their abilities. It powers them up, said Dune, for ball lightning. If you're amplified, the arc ball will fly out and zap enemies 3 times instead of just a normal 1. Okay, cool. For chain lightning, it chains more targets. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. All right. 3 new aspects will be available for the Warlocks. Ark Soul. Ark Soul, the Warlock casts a rift to create an Ark Soul that will assist the player in battle. So that's we already have that. Allies who pass through the rift will also earn an Ark Soul. We have that. The rift charges faster when allies are near. Okay. While amplified, any Ark Soul you have is supercharged. That's awesome. I love the sound of supercharged Ark Souls. But I guess my question here is, do getaway artists still function the same? Or are we going to get a rework for those? Lightning Surge. The Warlock activates their melee while sliding to transform into a ball of lightning and teleport forward, calling down a field of lightning bolts at the exit point that jolts targets. Interesting that they have activates the melee while sliding. Interesting. That sounds like more like a Titan thing to do. But Electrostatic Mind. Arc ability kills on arc debuffed enemies create Ionic Traces. Okay, when you collect on it, you become amplified. Great. So this seems imperative to most builds, in my opinion. This sounds like it's going to be on every build. You know, your arc ability kills on arc debuff enemies will create the traces, which are then going to give you back your abilities quicker. This sounds like it's going to be on every build. Titan. Titans haven't traditionally been known as paragons of mobility, but with Ark 3.0, the team is shaking things up. The team has a couple of inspirations in mind for the Ark Titan revamp. The lead with your fists, bare knuckle brawler, and freight train. Interesting. The desire to punch all the things manifests in a couple of devastating supers that are returning for Ark 3.0, Fist of Havoc, and Thunder Crash. So they're same. Okay. While the latter is practically unchanged from before, Fist of Havoc now has an adjusted slam radius that's halfway between top and bottom path. Interesting. And the ground slam leaves a damaging field in its wake, while slamming from the air causes damaging AoE effect from previous top tree behavior. Okay, so I don't see anything but a buff to Fist of Havoc here, which I would have liked to see. In the case of Thunder Crash and other abilities, uncoupling a subclass abilities from old subclass Diamond system will result in some substantial buffs depending on how players use it. It's one of the intrinsic advantages that the new subclass 3.0 system brings to Destiny. Okay. When you start pairing them with different things, even though nothing changed about the actual ability, they can end up getting significantly stronger as a result, because now they aren't locked into a canned set of perks that surround them. Thunder Crash is a great example of that. It's already so Thunder Crash is getting a buff, essentially without them even trying, by just unpairing. So we got to figure out how we do this, right? It's one of the intrinsic advantages, right? When you that we got to figure that out. So it sounds like Thunder Crash will still be king for boss damage for Titans. One of the biggest changes coming to Arc Titan is the new Thruster class ability. So Thruster class, okay. By tapping a button, the Titan bursts in their throttle direction at speed, performing a quick first-person evade comparable in distance to a hunter's dodge. Okay, so it's kind of like the boots from like Lion Ramparts or whatever, when you kind of dodge around, okay? Arc is the damage type that it is about mobility, so if we were going to add a mobility boost anywhere for Titans, it was going to be here. Okay. For melee attacks, Titans will retain the Seismic Strike shoulder charge, which blinds enemies, alright? Performing a Seismic Strike, while amplified, will increase the radius of the blind and the blinding effect that lasts longer. This sounds like a PvP nightmare. Ballistic Slam also returns, where players can slam the ground after sprinting in the air, creating a damaging explosion upon impact. Okay, so the mini crash. I'm going to call that the mini crash. Interesting. So those are essentially staying the same, but we're adding the blind and the blinding effect. Those returning melees will be joined by a brand new charged attack known as Thunderclap. Yes. Here, the Titan melee holds the melee button and charges up arc energy that can be unleashed in either a quick, powerful jab or held and built up to be unleashed in a furious One-Punch Man style blast that will devastate an opponent. I hope they've tested this. This sounds like it could potentially be like boss breaking in some raid or something. That sounds interesting. That sounds cool. The charge state cannot be stored, and the Titan must be on the ground to charge the punch. The damage is significant. A 90% charged Thunderclap will one-shot Guardians in the PvP. Oh boy, I wonder how long it takes to charge. Oh boy. But that reward will be balanced by the time it will take to build up that charge level, and the fact that you must remain stationary to charge. Always a dangerous move in PvP. Fair enough, but I'm really wondering what that charge level is and how we can like make that charge level go faster. Like if we pick up traces, the Ionic Traces, does the charge level quick? Does the charge level become faster? I know you can't move, but if they're if they're wells or something, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Like the other subclasses, Arc 3.0 Titans will have 3 aspects to select from. Touch of Thunder improves arc grenades in the following ways. Flashbang fires an additional blind impulse on the first bounce. Okay. Pulse, when the grenade damages an enemy, it creates an Ionic Trace for the Titan. Pulse grenade damage increases over time as the grenade lingers after impact. Alright. Lightning grants an additional charge for lightning grenade and jolts targets on initial blast. Storm creates a roaming thundercloud that moves and strikes enemies similar to a Stasis Hunter, Silence, and Squall Super, firing lightning bolts at the ground underneath it. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to be very interested to see how that works out in the game. That sounds interesting. Juggernaut. While sprinting and with full class ability energy, the Titan gains a frontal shield that blocks incoming damage. When amplified, the shield is stronger. Once the shield is depleted by taking damage, the player's class energy is depleted. Okay. That sounds like a PvP item, but we'll see. Last one we have here is Knockout. Melee kills trigger health regeneration and make the Titan amplified. Critically wounding an enemy or breaking their shield increases melee range and damage for a brief period. Titan's base melee becomes arc empowered while Knockout is active. Okay, cool. That sounds good. Sounds like a really nice way to chain health regeneration without having to pick up wells or anything. Nice. To complement the class specific aspects, Ark 3.0 will also introduce a suite of new fragments which offer new perks to build upon, as well as add bonuses or penalties to your Guardian's intrinsic stats. We've seen this with Solar and Ark 3.0, same thing. So here's our new fragments. Spark of Beacons. When the player is amplified, Ark special weapon kills grant a blinding explosion. Okay. Arc of Resistance. When surrounded by enemies, the player has increased damage resistance. Alright. Spark of Momentum. Sliding over ammo will reload your weapon and grant a small amount of melee energy. Sliding over heavy ammo increases the amount of energy granted. Okay, that sounds good. I like this. Spark of Shock. The player's arc grenades jolt enemies. Interesting. Alright, I could see how that could... Okay. I could see how that could play very well into some of what we read above. In all, the changes that are coming with Ark 3.0 will give Guardians more ways to bring the pain to the enemies of humanity, while also letting players customize their Guardian to the way they want to play. Fans will have their first chance to see Ark 3.0 in action next week's Destiny Showcase, which is coming August 23rd, starting at 9 a.m. Pacific. Check out Showcase Reveal page to learn more. And everybody, that's going to do it for the video. That sounds awesome. I'm so looking forward to Ark 3.0, and I'm really glad they gave us this little teaser here today. But we will be live on August 23rd to watch the showcase, and then we will be playing a new season. So make sure to check us out for that. And if you like the video and you want to come check out, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you all so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.